Hybrid versus gas reliability, the 2026 Toyota Camry Hybrid, Honda CR-V hybrid maintenance costs, used hybrid battery life, and the true cost of car ownership to 200,000 miles are the only topics that matter to a pragmatic buyer in the 2026 auto market. But there is a brutal, data-backed truth about these two powertrains that dealership sales managers and environmental lobbyists are absolutely desperate to keep hidden from you. Why is it that the low-maintenance promise of a hybrid often feels like a financial miracle during the first 5 years, but turns into a bankruptcy-level liability the moment the vehicle crosses the 6-figure mileage mark? And is the simple gas-guzzling internal combustion engine actually the smarter long-term investment for the person who plans to drive their car for a full decade? If you have been looking at a new 2026 Toyota RAV4 or a redesigned Honda Accord and wondering if the $3,000 hybrid premium is a smart move for your family budget, your GearHead instinct is exactly right to be skeptical, because the rules of automotive economics have been rewritten by modern electronic fatigue. By the time you finish this technical breakdown, you will understand the precise engineering reasons why hybrids are front-loading your savings while back-loading your repair risks. You will uncover the hidden inverter tax that the marketing brochures conveniently leave out. And you need to stay tuned until the very end, because I am going to reveal a specific ownership threshold, a number buried in independent reliability data that tells you the exact mileage point where a hybrid officially becomes more expensive to own than a traditional gas car. To understand the truth about modern automotive maintenance in 2026, we first have to address the biggest marketing lie in the industry: the idea that hybrids have fewer parts to break. Car companies love to tell you that hybrids do not have traditional starters or alternators, and that their brake pads last twice as long because of regenerative braking. While that is true on a surface level, as a veteran gearhead who has seen the inside of more service bays than a dealership manager, I am here to look at the other side of the ledger. When you buy a 2026 Toyota Corolla Hybrid or a Ford F-150 Power Boost, you are not buying a simpler machine. You are buying a vehicle that still has a full internal combustion engine with all its traditional failure points: oil pumps, water pumps, fuel injectors, and head gaskets. But now you have added a high-voltage battery pack, a sophisticated power split device, and a multi-$1,000 inverter converter assembly that manages hundreds of amps. From an engineering standpoint, you are effectively managing two entirely different propulsion systems crammed into one crowded engine bay. The honest truth is that a hybrid does not eliminate repairs. It simply trades $50 mechanical wearable parts for $5,000 electronic components that cannot be fixed in a home driveway. The second brutal truth that no one is discussing on YouTube is the thermal management debt of the hybrid powertrain. In a traditional gas-only car, the cooling system is relatively straightforward: a radiator, a mechanical pump, and a thermostat. In a 2026 hybrid, however, you often have separate cooling loops for the engine, the high-voltage battery, and the inverter. These systems use complex 3-way and 4-way plastic valves and multiple electric water pumps to move heat around. Research into high-mileage hybrid fleets in Europe and Asia shows that these plastic and rubber cooling components begin to fatigue and leak around year 8 or 10. If a plastic valve in your inverter loop fails and you don't catch it immediately, you can fry the power electronics in seconds. This is the undefined risk of hybrid ownership. While a gas car might leak coolant and overheat, a hybrid can leak coolant and brick the entire drivetrain. For a father trying to reach 200,000 miles, the mechanical simplicity of a naturally aspirated V6 or 4-cylinder gas engine is a defined asset, whereas the hybrid is a high-stakes gamble on the longevity of specialized plumbing and electronic boards. We also have to address the psychological factor of the regenerative braking scam. Salespeople will tell you that you will save thousands on brake jobs because the electric motors do most of the stopping, but they don't tell you about the brake-by-wire servo failures. To blend the friction brakes with the electric motors, modern 2026 hybrids use an incredibly complex electronic master cylinder. If this unit fails, which we are seeing more frequently in the high-mileage used market, the repair bill is typically over $3,000. In a standard gas-only Toyota or Honda, a new master cylinder is a $200 part that any local mechanic can swap in an hour. You might save $500 on brake pads over 10 years, but you are carrying a $3,000 electronic risk that can wipe out those savings in a single afternoon at the service department. Dads across the globe are starting to realize that maintenance savings in the hybrid world is often just a fancy way of saying, I'm borrowing money from my future self at a very high interest rate. Let's look at the research regarding oil dilution and its effect on the 200,000-mile goal. Because hybrid engines are constantly cycling on and off to stay in their electric-only mode, they rarely stay at their optimal operating temperature long enough to boil off moisture and unburnt fuel. This leads to severe oil dilution, where raw gasoline leaks past the piston rings and into the oil pan. If you follow the dealership's marketing-driven 10,000-mile oil change interval on a 2026 hybrid, you're essentially asking your engine to survive on a diluted, acidic lubricant. This accelerates the wear on the timing chain and the internal bearings. Generally speaking, a well-maintained gas engine is much more likely to reach 200,000 miles without burning a drop of oil than a hybrid engine that has spent its life in a stop-and-go urban cycle with thin, fuel-soaked oil. This is the invisible wear that does not show up on a service record, but manifests as a clattering engine at 120,000 miles. The controversy deepens when we talk about the inverter thermal cycle limit. This is a unique factual angle that the industry avoids. Every time your 2026 hybrid transitions from gas to electric or uses heavy regenerative braking, the power semiconductors inside the inverter experience a rapid spike in temperature. High-voltage engineers have a calculated limit for these thermal cycles before the solder joints in the power module begin to experience microscopic cracking due to fatigue. In the 2026 market, with more people doing short, high-stress city trips, we are seeing cars hit this thermal cycle limit much faster than the old highway commuter hybrids did. Once the inverter fails, the car is dead. This is not a part that wears out slowly like a clutch or a belt. It is a solid-state device that works perfectly until the moment it does not. This is why the resale value of high-mileage hybrids is so volatile. The second owner is terrified of being the one who is holding the car when the inverter hits its cycle limit. The global perspective on this debate is also revealing. In markets like Australia and the Middle East, where reliability in remote areas is a matter of survival, the gas-only engine remains the gold standard. Fleet operators know that they can fix a fuel pump or a radiator in the bush with basic tools. They cannot fix a high-voltage isolation fault or a software glitch in a hybrid. The brutal truth is that the hybrid is a first-world urban tool, while the gas-only car is a universal tool. If your goal is to reach 200,000 miles with the lowest possible chance of a stranded-on-the-highway event, the gas-only vehicle, specifically one with a naturally aspirated engine and a traditional automatic transmission, is the undisputed winner. You have to understand that the hybrid premium you pay at the dealership is actually a down payment on a higher-risk future. There's also the tire and suspension tax that hybrid owners pay in silence. Because a hybrid battery and dual motor system add significant weight, often 500 pounds or more, to the chassis, the tires and suspension components are under constant extra stress. We're seeing a pattern in 2026 where hybrid SUVs require new tires and control arm bushings 20% sooner than their gas-only counterparts. When you add the cost of 2 extra sets of tires over 200,000 miles plus a suspension refresh, the fuel savings start to look even smaller. The marketing department shows you the MPG, but the engineering department sees the curb weight and knows exactly where that extra energy is being spent, scrubbing the rubber off your tires and pounding the life out of your struts. Furthermore, we must address the battery degradation realism that hits around year 12. While Toyota and Honda have mastered the 8 to 10-year warranty period, the second owner of a 2026 hybrid is facing an inevitable capacity loss. A battery that has lost 20% of its capacity is not just about shorter EV mode range. It forces the gasoline engine to run more frequently to maintain the charge buffer. This means that as a hybrid ages, it actually becomes less efficient and puts more wear on the internal combustion engine. In contrast, a well-maintained gas engine's efficiency stays relatively flat over its lifespan. The brutal truth is that the older a hybrid gets, it more behaves like a less efficient version of the gas car it was supposed to beat. So, which one is actually cheaper to maintain to 200,000 miles? The data suggests a clear split decision that depends entirely on your driving lifestyle. If you are a city driver who does 80% of your miles in stop-and-go traffic and you plan to sell the car at years 7 or 8, the hybrid is likely cheaper because of the massive fuel savings and the lower wear on the engine during idling. However, if you are a long-term hold driver, someone who keeps a car for 15 years and aims for that 200,000-mile mark, the gas-only car is almost always the more cost-effective choice. The thousands of dollars you save in fuel in the hybrid are often completely erased by a single out-of-warranty battery replacement, inverter failure, or brake-by-wire servo repair in the vehicle's second decade. I want to hear from you in the comments below, because this is where the real-world research comes from. Are you a high-mileage hybrid owner who has hit 300,000 miles without a major electronic failure? Or are you a gas-only diehard who is laughing all the way to the bank while your neighbor deals with a check hybrid system light? Let us get a real argument going, because the truth about these costs is not found in a dealership brochure. It is found in the grease and grime of the real world and the actual repair invoices that people are paying every day. We need to hold these manufacturers accountable for the long-term repairability of their high-tech designs, and that starts with sharing the actual data from the people who live with these cars every day. Now, as I promised at the beginning, I'm going to reveal that specific ownership threshold number that determines when a hybrid officially becomes a liability. Based on current labor rates and parts pricing in the 2026 market, the hybrid break-even point for major repairs occurs at 140,000 miles. Up until this point, the fuel savings typically outweigh the minor maintenance costs, but once you cross 140,000 miles, the statistical probability of a system-level failure, whether it's the battery, the inverter, or the high-voltage cooling system, spikes dramatically. If you're buying a used hybrid with 150,000 miles, you're not getting a deal. You're inheriting an undefined financial risk that the first owner was smart enough to walk away from. This is the hidden expiration date of the modern hybrid. It's not about the engine blowing up. It's about the cost of the electronics exceeding the value of the car. If you're serious about reaching the 200,000-mile mark and you want to arm yourself against the dealership's high-tech scams and low-maintenance marketing fluff, knowledge is the only tool that works.